Hey guys, how are ya?
Good.
Harlan Pyan, how you doing?
I'm doing. Dog days of summer. You wouldn't know
Oh,
it.
aren't they? Well, we're trying to find some stocks that have been moving here on the show, and we found this whole mobile theme. Anything that's got mobile in the name has been moving the last few days. Are you finding the same thing over there at All About Trends?
I heard that. I heard that this morning. I do. Longside watch list is MOBI. So I do like what that name is building out here. So when you
You do
started
like
talking
that
about
MOBI.
MOBI, it's building. It's building a nice pattern, and I've got nothing bad to say about it. It's consolidating, which is nice. It made a push up to what 9.5 ish. Yeah, about 9.5 ish, and you can see it spikes up, and now it's kind of pulling back off its highs right in here. So that's good. Draw a line basically across in $9 when you look at a chart from let's say March, going back from March to present day. This is a huge 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 month base. So if this thing can continue this little digestion of that big gap spike there, and put in a pullback off highs pattern in here and start to bust higher, one could say it's going to go into a coming up the right side of a cup crossover, and who knows, maybe if it wants to complete a cup over time, it could work its way to 12.5. But we're not going to put the cart in front of the horse. Take it one step at a time. But it's building a nice pattern.
What about the
So
gap there? I mean, did you not? You just like totally ignore that the gap up? Because when I look at this, I'd be more inclined if I was holding this longer term. I mean, you got that big gap between 7 and 750. I mean, if you did purchase it at this area, would you be way ahead of that level? How do you interpret gaps?
I don't like them. I just don't like gaps because more often than not, gaps tend to get filled. Especially when you have a market that is V-shaped in nature, like we do. So I don't like gaps. Usually I will let the dust settle and then, take a look at, because the emotional money goes, wow, this stock's gapping up. Let's jump on it. Well, what about the guy that bought it the day before at 6.5, and here it gaps up and, runs to 8.5 percentage wise? It's huge. Mission accomplished for that guy. So for me, I kind of like to let the dust settle. I don't like chasing stocks. If I miss it, I miss it. You're always going to miss stocks. And if if it keeps going without you, you know what? There's always another stock. You just chalk it up and go, oh, well, I missed it. But more often than not, gaps tend to get filled. And if they don't get filled, they build out a consolidation pattern, which is actually digestion of this gap up is what we're seeing for the last week or two. So it's just one of those that's on my watch list. And if it can tighten up in here, and then get strong, I'll get more serious about it.
What do you think of these 3D stocks here? Because I'm looking at them and they look like Harlan Pyan charts here. DDD, XONE, and SSYS. All three of them have obviously pulled back quite a bit here, but the last few days they're starting to consolidate here. Even looking at DDD, it's just it's broke out there 3 days ago above the 50, and it's just slowly starting to climb here. Does it look like it's getting ready to go? What do you think of this, Harlan?
Well, I see the crossover of 50. I see that. It was, it got slammed, came right back down to basically the May lows zone. And, then it started to wake up a little bit and went sideways. And so I can see why it crossed over 50 because, it was consolidating. One could say mini basing, for the bulk of August. And, obviously it started to work up. But, the 50-day is 53.68. And, look at the chart from May through August. It's just all over the board.
Right.
So I'm just not really
You don't like it outside
liking
of the
that.
50-day.
For one thing, your strongest stocks are always the ones that are above the 50-day trending higher. So, but for right now, I just got really nothing good, nothing bad to say. It's just a volatile, crazy, wide, loose, nobody can make up their mind type of theme.
And
SSYS looks, it looks okay. But, within the group, it's just a lot of scatter.
Yeah, it is. And the thing that's a little concerning about the Triple D is that what set it down was earnings. And that was the reason for the gap down. I just will alert our traders, anybody that's active in this issue, that we got the 51.87 yesterday. And then the day that we gapped down from the disappointing earnings, the high was that exact number, 51.87. So let's call it a little room, $52, kind of at the higher end of the range here. Let's see if people are reevaluating the stock if it can break above 52. We in the chat here, CMCM, Harlan. We're going to throw that one at you.
CMCM.
Yeah.
I knew someone was going to try. Yeah, Cheetah Mobile.
Oh, it's a mobile stock.
Good example.
Mobile. It's got
Mobile.
Yeah, it's got some gas. 21 beeline right up into new highs, and then it sat there and spun around. 26, 27. You could take that spike over 30, and you see it. It spiked up all the way. Let's say from 21 to 30ish, and then it started doing a nice pullback off highs. So I was really kind of watching this thing, and then yesterday, boom, it just took off, and I'm like, well, missed that one. So, so right now, I got to call this thing sitting in new high ground, bouncing between 26ish and 30. So we'll find out if it goes range bound here, and that 26 through 30 ends up being a base building period, which is also a digestion of that move from 21 to 30. So speaking of, big moves, straight up vertical moves, can you guys pull a 6-month chart of the NASDAQ composite, COMP?
Let's see if that is on this. There it is. And I'll go to a weekly here, Harlan, for your illustrative purposes.
No, go to a daily. Go to a daily if you can.
Okay.
It jumps out at you. It jumps out at you a little bit better when you look at it daily.
Yeah, 6 months here. My data doesn't go quite back. My chart goes back to March 3rd.
Okay, that was perfect.
Okay.
That was perfect.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right. Take a look at right there, that chart. Take a look at the, middle of May. Middle of May, you see the NASDAQ. It started to wake up, and it ran up right into Memorial Day, right into a holiday. And then what did it do? It sat there right into the Memorial Day holiday. So, look at our market now. Here we are. We're running up into a holiday. And the same thing can be said for the 4th of July. You'll see that the market at the end of, where is it here? I'm looking at a different chart. Sorry. So the other thing you can see with the NASDAQ composite is, what did we do? Late June, we started to run higher right into the 4th of July holiday. So, what you're seeing here with the market running up, it's the same thing that we, typically see. We're running up into a holiday. So with the Memorial Day holiday, you ran up off the May lows, the middle of May lows. Then you at least put in some sort of a consolidation for about a week right into the holiday before it decided to bust through that digestion and gains and move higher. Whereas the move into the 4th of July, they sold you off right after. So, as you can see, this move that we've seen, it's been straight up right into the holiday, really no consolidations or a digestion of those gains to speak of. So, one of two things are going to happen here after the holiday. We're going to go sideways and digest the big move that we've just seen in a very short period of time, or they're going to pull us back. And so I think it's, big picture, it's a wait and see with the indexes here. It's been a nice vertical straight up run. I have trouble with those kind of markets. And there are a lot of stocks that are kind of sitting and spinning, and a lot of stocks that are looking short term, a little toppy. Look at Facebook. When you showed that Facebook chart, right away it just kind of jumped out at me. It's a retest of the highs.
And Twitter,
which, you know, it
yeah,
could.
Twitter's doing the same thing. It had the bump up after earnings and then pulled back, and now it's right back up to those levels, giving people a chance that didn't sell on the earnings pop to do it again. I'd just like to note the S&Ps have gone negative here,
Ooh,
1997.
down a buck.
Yeah, down a buck and a quarter.
Well,
Not holding that
watch out.
yeah, not holding that 2000 level. If you're looking for
Well,
target on the
go on, go
downside.
on.
I was just going to say, target on the downside for our traders may be Tuesday's Globex low at 92 and a quarter. That's only $5 from here. But go ahead, Harlan.
Yeah, well, you know, that's the same thing. I mean, Twitter, you know, Twitter's been working its way higher. And, you know, when we were talking about that one stock that gapped up and how I told you I don't like gaps, you know, look at the earnings gap on Twitter. You know, perfect example. They gap it up and, you know, a lot of times they pull them right back. So, you know, so that's why I don't like gaps, because more often than not, they do tend to pull back once the dust settles. Twitter, bigger picture, draw a line across, let's say 48, going back all the way to April. One could say that this is a resistance zone, and they would be right. Now, with the market very overbought, one of two things. I mean, the healthiest thing would be is if it pulls back a little bit, tightens up here, and then busts through 48. Because there, too, one could say it would be a right side of cup crossover, or an issue that's emerging out of a correction and coming up the right side of a cup. And, you know, who knows? Maybe it completes a cup over time and, you know, heads to a retest of its highs as well. So it's something to watch. I would like to see it, you know, stage A, pull back off highs pattern, and then I'll take a look at it. So
Harlan?
that's, you know, that's Twitter. But Facebook, it looks like it's double top-ish short term. So does Tesla. So, you know, you're starting to see some names that they hit peaks, they pulled back, and here they come right back up, and they're retesting those highs, and they're kind of stalling out up here. So even some of the individual go-go names, you know, are saying, you know what, we're a little bit tired relative to what the markets are doing. You know, underneath the surface of the index, you can start to see some signs of being tired, or, hey, we need a break, we need to digest these gains if we're going to work higher. So it's a two-way street in the market.
Couple more stocks here for you from the chat. This is actually, I had the same one I was going to ask him about. Rob Hood is asking, TKMR, the Ebola stock, had that big run up from 13 to 26 in 3 days when Ebola was all over the headlines. It's pulled back off of its earnings reports, but now it's consolidated here. And then yesterday started to show a little bit of life. What do you think of this TKMR chart?
Well, actually, I'm glad he brought it up, because, you know, what were we talking about last week? We were talking about this exact name, that, you know, once the dust settles, you know, over this Ebola, you know, this thing's going to come right back down. And sure enough, you know, just like you were talking about last week, you know, came right back down to earth. So another example of don't chase stocks. You know, those gap ups, ultimately, you know, leave them be and they'll pull right on back. But it is pulling right back, you know, so I can build a case for this issue tightening up here and pulling back off its highs. I would be drawing a line, when I look at a 6-month chart, draw a line right across 16. So one could say it broke out of the bottom of a cup at 16, spiked up, and now it's pulled back off those highs. So, you know, it is a little funky in here, but it could just be the week of the year, if you will. So, but I have nothing bad to say about it if you feel you want to be in that space.
How about Cray here? CRAY. Get another out of the Cray Incorporated here. Could you pull that up on your system, Harlan? And boy, it's had a nice move here, gap and go yesterday. When I look at something like this, I like to see immediate follow through the previous day's high, and then also it's coming up on a nice round number like 30. Got the 30.29 yesterday, closed at 29.60. What's your opinion on Cray?
Well, big base, you know, you can see this thing, the range over the last, since the May lows, this thing has been going between 25 and let's call it 32. There's your range. It's one huge trading range going sideways here. So, and now you're starting to move up off of that. So, resistance right now, bigger picture, $32.
Okay, in the
So,
last stock before we let you go, JRJC, China Finance Online Limited ADR.
JRJC.
This thing's been
Wow.
just taking off like crazy here, $4 to $11 in basically a week and a half. So now we're just
Yeah,
3-4 days, same range.
yeah, absolutely, and rightfully so. You have a stock that just in one day went from I'll call it $5 right up to 8. And of course this one clawed higher. Reminds me of At Home, ATHM, and Bit Auto, BITA. Kind of a same theme-ish there. Bit Auto, and then At Home, and JRJC. Who knows? Maybe they're the finance side of Bit Auto and all that stuff. I don't know. But those three stocks, there's something going on with those three stocks, and they just went gangbusters. So for me, you're late to the party, and the market is saying right here, the last 4 or 5 days, it's been a nice move. We're going to digest that gain by going sideways versus immediately pulling back. Because remember, when stocks take off, that's what they do. They digest the gains by either going sideways through time or they pull back. And for right now, this issue is digesting that huge move by going sideways. So there's really not a lot to say about it. I wouldn't be a buyer here. I guess if you own it, what's healthy to see is it's spiked higher and it isn't giving it all back as of yet. So, this is a strong thing. Call it consolidating at the highs. For how long it's going to consolidate at the highs, nobody knows. But crazy stock.
Yeah, I mean,
personally, if I owned it in the 4.5 range and I saw it here, I would literally have to sell at least some of my peanuts.
Okay.
All right. That's a huge move. That's like a double.
Yeah, it is. It is. Harlan Pyan taking profits here, all about trends. Thank you, Harlan. I missed you last week, but glad to have you back. Thanks a lot. Have a nice, long, relaxing Labor Day weekend, and we'll get back at you next Wednesday.
You bet. Same to you guys. Take care.